You sit in church week after week, embracing the truth of God's word. You believe the gospel and claim Jesus Christ as your Lord. Yet you continue to struggle with pornography. You feel like a hypocrite, returning to the sin you hate that mocks the God you love. You desperately wonder, is lasting freedom even possible? Yes, you can overcome pornography, but not alone. 2 Timothy 2:22 says, "Now flee from youthful lusts, and pursue righteousness, faith, love, and peace, with those who call on the Lord from a pure heart." Only by repeatedly running from sin to Christ with other believers can you hope to enjoy lasting freedom. You can live with purity and integrity. Take courage, seek accountability, and do whatever is necessary. Get equipped at
Wanted. Young men to rebuild Western civilization. Must be unafraid of pain, blisters, intellectual rigor, and a lifetime of long shifts with swords and shovels, digging ditches, repelling invaders, and reading stacks of books taller than their fathers. Must be impervious to manipulative women of all sorts, giggling virgins, cyber skanks, and even full cauldrons of Karens or hand-wringing clergy, but always seeking to hear and heed the words of Lady Wisdom. Immune to the leadership of hypocrites and LARPing online masculinitods, unaffected by abusive authorities, petty professors, and all brokers of official respectability. Willing to hoist the Jolly Roger and Johnny Cash's favorite finger whenever faced with idolatry. Long-suffering joy and determination required. Must be willing to dwell among the tombs and graves of the long dead, seeking truths that cannot die. Exhaustion guaranteed. Conflict guaranteed. Mortality guaranteed. New St. Andrews College. Liberal arts for the undaunted.
I'm the music guy. That's right. Hey, y'all. Welcome to Cross Politics on the Fight, Laugh, Feast Network. It's good to be with you, Pastor Toby, the Water Boy, and Joffrey the Giant. Everyone's got a nickname on this show. It's great. Chalk Knox is still out of the studio, so if you want to bring him back in the studio, you have to join the club. There's no way around it. Join the club. Go to fightlaughfeast.com. Join the club. Become a club member. We send out T-shirts, all that stuff. It's a lot of fun. Joining the club, you get to support us. You also get discounts at our Fight Laugh Feast conference, which is October 16th through the 18th. We will be doing a corporate partner dinner again on the night before, Wednesday night. Okay. And also, we're going to be in Nashville May 1st and 2nd and 3rd at Jason Whitlock's Roll Call Conference. You guys want to bring that slide up if we still got it? Roll Call Conference. We'll be attending the whole shebang. He's got stuff going on Friday night and Saturday, but on Saturday it's only $99. Okay. And so you can come. Pastor Wilson's speaking. They got Jason Whitlock will be speaking, stuff like that. It should be a really great time. Knox went last year, and then Jason wanted to get us all out there this year, so we're excited to
I'm looking forward to that.
Joining them. And then we're going to be visiting Brooks Church, Pilgrims Hill Church, on a Sunday. If you guys want to go out to Goodlettsville and join us for church there,
What's
we're going to be out there. Pilgrims Hill.
Yeah, but what'd you say after that?
Goodlettsville.
That's what it's called?
That's the town they're in.
Whoa, Goodlettsville.
Yeah.
I thought you stuttered for a second.
No. Almost 100%. I said it right.
Are you sure?
Yeah. Now I'm doubting myself, but
I don't know.
So would love to see you out. We're going to be likely doing a pre-business makers summit or a business maker summit out there in Nashville Thursday night and Friday. Also that, and Toby likely will be speaking at that too. So
it's always nice to hear.
Are you ready?
Live.
Yeah.
Yes.
What your schedule is?
What I'm speaking at.
Yeah.
Very good. That's exciting.
Well, I'd be excited about Jason Whitlock because that man has the correct opinion on the NBA MVP race. Nikola Jokic all the way.
Oh, Jokic.
Come on.
Man, that guy, he just throws the ball from 3/4 of the court and it goes in. Did you see this happened like last week?
He did a Euro step one.
He did a Euro step, jumped off 1 foot and threw it off 1 foot, and it was like a full court shot and it went in at halftime. It was amazing. And I think they asked him after the game, like, how did you make that shot? He's like, my shots just go in. I don't know. He's the funniest guy. My wife didn't even know he's a basketball player. She found out about Jokic from his videos about how he loves his horses.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
That's he's like, who is this guy? I was like, that's Jokic. He's an NBA superstar. So
And she's like, but he likes horses.
yeah, he's hilarious. He likes his wife and his horses. That's it. That's it.
I like him already.
Yeah.
Are you concerned your child's current education won't give them the skills necessary to succeed in any area of life? Consider homeschooling with Classical Conversations. By applying the classical Christian model of education, the Classical Conversations curriculum encourages students in how to learn and how to think for themselves so they can adapt to every challenge life throws at them. Join the over 50,000 families in 60 countries who have chosen to educate their children with Classical Conversations by visiting classicalconversations.com/FLF. That's classicalconversations.com/FLF. I got one more ad to read, but I just found a pretty fun bio for Joffrey.
Oh, nice.
So
real quick. Robert Borton's gonna be on the Sean Ryan show tomorrow.
Okay.
Big show, and then he's gonna be coming on our show on Tuesday.
Okay. All right. Ryan Borton's Classical Conversations.
Robert Borton's. Not did I say Ryan Borton's?
I don't know what you said.
I said
Robert Borton.
Robert. Yeah, I think you said Ryan.
Yeah, that's
Ryan
right.
Borton.
Did he say Ryan?
Yeah.
Ryan,
That one's on Toby.
Ryan Borton's is one of our best friends.
We should play this clip as we introduce him on Tuesday.
Yes.
In an age where lies dominate the public square, the need for virtue has never been greater. In a culture captivated by destruction and death, the world longs for builders and fighters, those anchored in truth, devoted to liberty, and committed to fruitfulness. New St. Andrews College rises to meet this need, preparing leaders who will faithfully shape culture under the lordship of Jesus Christ. New St. Andrews College offers an excellent undergraduate education in the liberal arts, firmly rooted in a Christian and Reformed perspective. Its mission is to equip students for lives of faithful service to the triune God and his kingdom, equipping them to use their gifts to cultivate and advance Christian culture. The college doesn't exist to merely hand out degrees, but to establish exceptional leaders who can wield the axe of St. Boniface to destroy idols while harnessing the wisdom of great historical thinkers to build edifices of masterful brilliance that shape the world. The call is clear. We want a generation prepared to stand firm, build wisely, and live faithfully. Applications for fall 2025 are now wide open. nsa.edu/apply. You can find that application at nsa.edu/apply.
You know, one of the things that I've been thankful for the Trump administration is they really are making right a lot of wrongs. I mean, you got the transgender thing. I mean, Trump just declares a man as a man, a woman as a woman. There's a lot of good things happening. We're going to be talking about the tariffs later in the show, and we'll kind of walk through that a little bit. But here's Pete Hegseth beginning to, I think, fix a big wrong in the military that needs to be made right.
Here at the Defense Department, we are restoring the warrior ethos, and that means we got to be fit to fight inside all of our formations. That starts with standards and going back to basics. So for decades, the military I joined, there were different male and female physical standards because men and women are different, and that's understandable. But there were certain jobs, combat MOSs, that were only for men, and so you had a male standard. Then in 2015, under the Obama administration, against the advice of the military services, opened up all those combat MOSs to males and females. Fine, if that's their decision. But they never changed the standards in a lot of those roles. So you still had higher standards for men than for women in a lot of those combat MOSs. Some changed it, but not all did. We're fixing that. We're ensuring that any combat position across any of the services, and the services are evaluating that, has the same standard for men and women, which means anybody can join, but the standard is to meet what it takes to do that combat job, rigorous physical standards, so that your sons and daughters, those that join our military, have the best possible units, the most lethal units. So this is a standard review, looking at combat units, looking at men and women. No standards will be lowered, only at the highest level. And we look forward to all our best warriors joining those units. It's a review that's important, long overdue, and the kind of thing we promised inside the Trump administration.
Now, first off, it's amazing that they even had unequal standards for the same combat role. It's like, you're in the trenches and you go out there and you get shot, you need to be carried off.
Right.
And if someone didn't make like the physical standards of being able to carry someone off and out of the trenches, you're dead.
Right.
And so that happened. Now, I think the other thing, of course, I wish that Pete would just have no women on the front lines in combat. I wish that would be the thing. But
warrior is still a gender neutral term, as it turns out. He was very careful about that so far.
Yeah. Well, and he even said these standards, both men and women now need to hit these standards. But I do think this is a first step in the right direction of eliminating. I mean, how many will not be able to make those high standards? I don't even know if they might even make them higher. Pete kind of referenced something towards the end, like high standards. And that'll probably do a lot of damage to keep kind of the women out of the military anyways. So probably change some of that.
Right. Yeah, no, I mean, you always sort of like, I don't know, you kind of wish like you just come out and be like, all right, no more women in combat roles.
Yeah.
I mean, you totally wish that. I'm sure that's what he ultimately fundamentally believes.
Yeah.
The CREC, the denomination that he's a part of, that we are a part of, actually states that explicitly. We have a memorial that we've passed as a denomination saying that
no women in combat.
Yeah, it's an abomination for a woman to be put in a lethal position, to be placed in a place where that's, you know, as a role, as a job that they're doing that.
And that memorial came out of some Republican Congress, and Republican Democrats were talking about putting women in the draft.
Right.
That was 2015 or something.
Well, this has been in our documents for much longer than
maybe
that.
It's 2011 or something when that happened. But
there have been conversations about this for years, because again, it's like people are not consistent, but ideas sort of force a kind of consistency. People are not consistent, but over time, cultures and societies tend to be. And one who, he who says A sort of tends to have to say B over time. So somebody might say, oh, no, even though we say men and women are the same, we would never do the draft on women. But like, why?
Why not? Yeah.
Like the logic is there. And so I see all of this as pushing back. And even this is absolutely a step in the right direction. It's recognizing natural creational differences, if only at the level of just basic creational differences in terms of ability,
physical abilities.
But that will also then actually protect our daughters in a certain respect, because they can't. Our daughters are not made to perform those physical tasks, and therefore they're protected from that draft. So I'm really grateful for that.
Well, and I think just the high standards alone is probably going to discourage a lot of people, including probably some men who know they can't make those standards. And they won't even push for that.
No, I mean, again, back to the thing he's mentioned a couple of times that I really appreciate, but his focus has been the job of the military is to be lethal,
deadly.
I love that focus.
It's a great definition.
It's because it's true. It's biblical. I mean, that is the job of the civil government is to wield a sword, and the military in particular is the tip of that sword. And so its job is to be absolute lethal. And that really helps actually sort a lot of other things where, again, you'd like, ultimately praying for real moral clarity across the board.
Yes.
But by setting the goal clearly, it actually sorts a whole bunch of other things. Like, we don't care about DEI stuff in the military. We want to kill bad guys.
Right.
And it kind of just helps sort a lot of that stuff out.
So Trump, he's done this in multiple areas. But Texas.
All right, before you talk about Texas, before you talk about Texas, just take a deep breath, because I know this is going to be really hard for you.
This is a hard transition.
So just hold on. We're going to get to Texas in just a second. But I just want to talk about Joffrey for a second. He's sitting here on the show. And I mean, I know everyone probably knows Joffrey.
They know Joffrey the Giant.
I was on the show when you were gone.
But I've never been on the show. I've never been on the show with Joffrey.
Very exciting.
Actually, there was there's no bio in my notes for you, so I just asked Grok.
Okay.
Nice.
I asked Grok, who is Joffrey the Giant?
He's a medical doctor. What?
And Grok says, one possibility is Joffrey Swait, a self-styled online persona known as Joffrey the Giant. He's a content creator, blogger, YouTuber, and social media voice, focused on themes like Christian virility, family life, and traditional masculinity.
Yeah.
That's pretty good, huh? That's pretty good.
Does it have anything about
really,
smoking pipe?
was really direct.
Hold
but-
on. Swait lives in Moscow, Idaho with his wife and 5 kids
Wow.
and has a background in teaching ESL, writing poetry, and running a used bookshop.
Look at that.
His YouTube channel and blog, Joffrey the Giant. .blogspot.com. You still do Blogspot? No. Mix theology, culture, and personal takes on rugged living. Think rugby, pipe smoking, and reciting poetry.
Brock knows me.
Whoa.
He's active on
Nailed it.
platforms like X at Joffrey the Giant.
No,
Or
Joffrey Swait.
Okay, that's somebody else has stolen your handle.
Mm.
Where he's built a modest following.
That's probably this blog is probably the other Joffrey the Giant guy.
The giant bit likely nods to his larger-than-life persona or physical stature, though he doesn't spell that out.
Oh, hey everyone, I'm really big.
That's
It
great.
says this. There's also a fictional Joffrey the Giant in Ursula K. Le Guin's The Farthest Shore.
You're kidding.
A minor character, a doorman, but that's a stretch unless you're digging into obscure fantasy lore.
Wow. So
Wow.
the Joffrey literary thing is a big deal for me, but they I guess now I know of two show up among the most wicked authors, because Ursula K. Le Guin was a horrible woman, and people can go search online. She was a terrible person. People still love her books.
Uh-huh.
You know, a feminist abuser of little ones.
Oh,
A
wow.
terrible person.
Okay.
Wow.
The other one is George R. R. Martin. He had a Joffrey,
I don't know George R. R. Martin.
the Game of Thrones.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
And I had my bookstore when Game of Thrones was enormously popular in the books.
Mhm.
Okay.
People always wanted to talk about this. He's not a giant. He's just Joffrey, a murderous tiny little king, and people
Oh,
loved.
wow.
So there were a few books I refused to sell in my bookstore. One was the Left Behind series. The
Yeah.
other was Game of Thrones.
Okay, interesting.
There you go.
There you go. Well, I just thought that was kind of
That's
a fun bio right there on the spot. And,
That's- yeah.
And anyways.
As long as it said pipe smoking and rugby,
I know
it got me.
Yeah.
pretty and poetry.
Yeah.
I mean, by the way, Joffrey just spoke at the
Missions
Christchurch
Conference.
Missions Conference this last weekend. The theme was the gospel and Brazil.
Yeah.
And I felt like I was probably the most like fish out of water of all the speakers. I've not been to Brazil. But
He doesn't even know how to spell it correctly.
but hey. But I want to commend Joffrey's talk that he gave. It was wonderful.
It'll probably
He-
be in Canon Plus in
he
the coming weeks. or
Only
something.
cried
Yeah.
for about half of it.
Yeah.
But it was very moving. You a grown man is allowed to weep while reading selections of The Return of the King.
Correct.
So I think that was
In
very
fact, sometimes it's possible not to.
yeah. So, anyways, it was a fantastic talk. All the talks will be available probably at the Christchurch YouTube channel or Canon Plus.
Yeah.
Pretty soon, but recommend that to you. But thank you for the talk and thank you
Yeah.
for joining
It
us
was a pleasure.
today.
Okay,
Cheers.
now that we've ruined my transition.
Yeah.
I was trying to set a more happy tone.
yeah.
Oh,
Before we talk about Texas.
he's about to get
Yeah.
so grumpy right
I know,
now.
I know.
So if you guys aren't following Texas politics, you got to follow Brent Money, who we've had on the show before.
Yeah.
Is it Brian Harrison? You can follow him on Twitter. But Texas
Who's the
Republic,
Texas scorecard guy?
Mike Sullivan. He's another good guy.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
great.
We follow
Another-
him. We
another
follow
good
him
guy.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Texas Republican politics are the most disgusting politics in the land right and have been for a long time. If you follow
Should give
anything,
yourself an organ.
yeah.
Most disgusting.
The Republicans,
Preach,
it's the if I can just put it this way, it's the kind of establishment Republicans versus kind of the newer Republicans who actually care about freedom and patriotism. The old guard has been there forever.
Yeah.
And
They're mostly rhinos.
yeah, we can call them rhinos. That's fine.
Yeah.
But what's happened is the new guard is getting more and more in power, getting more and more people elected. So what the old guard has done, instead of appointing the new guard chairs and that kind of thing, well, they've partnered with the Democrats in Texas. So there's a number of Democratic chairs because the old guard, the rhinos, are in bed with them to control the politics the way they want to control. It's horrible.
Yeah.
It's disgusting. And so what's even going on this year is like the chair, the speaker in Texas House is like breaking all the rules. Like he's not letting people speak. He's not giving people the microphone. And obviously it's the new guard. He's not letting get the microphone.
Okay.
And so, but here's what just happened today in Texas. Roll the clip.
Mr. Speaker, I move to suspend all necessary rules to take up and consider H.R. 32. Members, you've heard the motion. Is there any objection? Chair is none. The rules are suspended. Following resolution, the clerk will read the resolution.
H.R. 32 by Lalani recognizing Pakistan Day at the state capitol.
Chair recognizes Dr. Lalani to explain the resolution.
Oh,
Pakistan Day at the Capitol.
oh, wow.
And they voted it through and it passed.
wait.
Mm.
Play it again.
Yes. This happens so fast. You have to watch.
You have to. Can you
Yes.
play it again, DJ? Play it again.
Mr. Speaker, I move to suspend all necessary rules to take up and consider H.R. 32.
Members, you've heard the motion. Is there any objection? Chair is none. The rules are suspended. Following resolution, the clerk will read the resolution.
H.R. 32 by Lalani recognizing
I want that to be a stinger. We should make that a stinger on
We
this.
need that, yeah.
Lalani to explain the resolution.
I'm not even quite sure exactly what he said yet. He's like motion.
Are there any objections?
no objections?
No objections.
But it's one
Yeah.
word.
Yeah, it's all one word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like he's doing an auction. He's like an auctioneer.
He just,
It's like he's been dreaming about saying those words
Yeah.
for a long time.
I mean,
Been
how do-
practicing
yeah,
in
he
the
how-
didn't
mirror.
let anybody object, and he suspended the rules right there.
How do you say it that fast without practicing?
Yeah.
He's got to be in front of the mirror.
He's a talent. Is what's happened. He's gotten used to that. He's gotten good at it.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of shenanigans
So he
he's been
doesn't
doing.
allow there to be any objections.
Yeah, no debate, no nothing.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's just suspend the rules.
So that literally happened, I think today or yesterday. I might have said today. Today or yesterday.
Okay.
The last 24 hours.
Okay.
So they now have created a Pakistani Day at the Capitol in Texas under Republican leadership.
Pakistan Day.
Yeah.
Pakistani Day.
I guess that's like
We celebrate Pakistan people.
Okay.
I will say, like, I am an enormous fan of Texas being its own nation.
Yeah.
That would be wonderful.
Mhm.
But if there were a Christian nation of Texas,
Mhm.
one of my problems with them would be that one of their closest allies would be Pakistan.
Why?
Well, I mean, there's the whole Charlie Wilson, like Afghanistan
Right.
oil money connection.
Mm-hmm.
And it's Texas's entry
Mhm.
into the Middle East, right? They,
Yeah.
you know, when Texas businessmen want to work, and they're not interested in Pakistan itself for that, but Pakistan
Just
is
the
an
oil.
ancient player of the great game.
Yeah.
They want to get to the oil beyond Pakistan, but that's kind of their entry, and that's who they have history with.
Interesting.
Yeah. No,
Interesting.
the Charlie Wilson thing's a horrible story. Actually,
So,
it's bad.
So that's actually really, really helpful. That didn't even occur to
Yeah.
me. But so this is not just multiculturalism.
I would guess not, but it would be a guess.
But you're suggesting though. Texas is like big oil. Texas big oil is in bed with Middle East oil. I mean, presumably.
Yeah, I mean, at least some of them.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, and again, Pakistan is not oil, but
Yes.
Pakistan is a gateway.
To oil.
Why is
they're
it
a great game.
Why is it a gateway?
Well, so
Is it a geographical
it's-
gateway?
yeah, exactly. Geographical, geopolitical, and historical. So Pakistani intelligence agencies active against India, active in Afghanistan all the time. When we wanted to go into Afghanistan, we used Pakistani resource.
Okay.
Right. And so
Relationships.
Intelligence,
Exactly, right.
Intelligence, security.
Exactly right.
Okay.
Yeah, so they were a great player of the great game. Like when the British and Russian empires
Yeah.
wanted to get into India, Pakistan was someone they had to deal with. They're used to being intermediaries. They're effective intermediaries.
Right.
Mhm.
So it could be just very, very practical. Like we want to stay
Yes.
close to these people. They've been helpful in a lot of ways.
Right.
And to the extent that they're asking for things in Texas, we want to keep being friendly.
Yes, which might seem harmless, but I know there are other things going on
Yeah.
in Texas that illustrate that it's not harmless.
So if I'm thinking through like, okay, what are some strategic states? Texas likely is not on my top 5 list in the U.S. I'd probably Idaho. I think Idaho's way more strategic than everyone realizes.
Yeah.
Part of the as I'm kind of running the calculation of what's strategic and what's not kind of thing. Texas has 50 million people, and
You're saying it's not strategic because it's not feasible anymore?
I'm not sure. I'm not.
Or do you think it just doesn't matter?
There's so much damage the old Republican Guard has done.
Yeah.
I don't know how you turn that boat around quickly,
Right,
without doing more damage. So I would say part of that's there. I mean,
Okay.
Texas has got, I think, almost one of the highest property state taxes in the state, in the union.
Okay.
Their property taxes are awful, and what's hilarious is like they got a surplus this year, and they aren't still fixing the high property tax problem. I mean, my aunt and uncle were had a house in a town 75 miles outside of Dallas, and their property taxes in this border Oklahoma town was like, I think they're paying like something like $8,000, $10,000 a year on this house. My taxes here are like almost a third of that.
I mean, a small word of encouragement about Texas. The state I love the most is Florida. And I would have said exactly what you just said about Texas 15 years
That's fair.
ago.
That's fair. So you can have a lot happen
Florida.
About Florida.
Yeah.
And now when I think about Florida, I think, how refreshing.
Right.
You know, I'd like to live there, maybe.
Yeah.
Not just for the weather.
Right. Right.
So here is there's been a number of Islamic communities starting to pop up in Texas.
Wow.
And here's one that's literally, they're going through the city council kind of zoning approval, all that stuff. This is outside of, this is in Collin County, which is just outside. It's a county contiguous to Dallas County. And here's the video of this proposal. They're fighting about it this week. Is a big fight happened this week about it. Here's the video of kind of the proposed development.
402 acres of beautiful scenery. Welcome to the future of living. Welcome to Epic City. Nestled in the heart of Josephine, Texas, it is about 20 miles and 20 minutes from Epic.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar.
Welcome to Epic 2.0.
What's in the center of the city?
Epic City is more than just a neighborhood. It's a way of life.
What is that building?
A meticulously designed community that brings Islam to the forefront. A community that blends with nature, crafted to elevate your living experience. With single-family homes, multi-family townhomes and apartments, senior living, and in the heart, a mosque and a school.
The heart, a mosque.
Wow.
So that's the proposal.
Yeah.
I think it's like something like 1,000 homes or 1,000 units, something like that.
Yeah.
And it's basically an Islam. It's dedicated. It's an Islamic community.
Islam to the forefront. What a phrase.
Yes.
And so here's I lost my notes here. So here's a video. Do we have the developer video? The developer of him talking about it. Did that make it into the slides? It didn't make it in. Okay. Well, yeah. Let's get it. I'll play the pastor first, and then we'll play the developer talking about, or the engineer, the designer talking about it. So, here is they had a city council meeting. Hang on. Hang on.
It's really exciting.
I'll get you there. So here's a pastor in the area going to the city council meeting. A bunch of people stood up and talked to him.
This is about whether or not this epic city, this Muslim city,
Can't get its zoning
can be approved.
Yes.
In Texas.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay. Now roll.
My name is Grant Barney. I'm a pastor at Calvary Chapel, North Texas, and a resident of Collin County. And my views here are my own. I appreciate you guys for holding this meeting. Thank you for inviting the community to speak on the development of Epic City. I do oppose the development of Epic City or any development that seeks to establish Sharia laws in our state or nation. Sharia law is incompatible with our laws and our Constitution. It is an abuse of our religious liberties and First Amendment rights to seek to establish a law that would remove or override our Constitution or religious liberties. Furthermore, Sharia law and Islamic philosophy are what have led to the terrorist attacks against our nation on 9/11. Sharia law and Islamic doctrine are what led to the slaughter and atrocities committed against thousands of people in Israel on October 7th in 2023, including the murder of men, women, children, and infants. Sharia law made these people believe they had a right to kill, steal, rape, and enslave those who would not join them. To this day, Islam persecutes those of other faiths around the world, including Jews, Hindus, and Christians. Thousands of Christians die each year in Nigeria, Sudan, and most currently, if you've been watching the news, Syria, at the hands of those who believe Sharia law. This is but a few nations among many where these atrocities against humanity are committed. Our founding fathers said, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. The purpose of our government in America is to secure the rights given to us by God. Sharia law and Islamic philosophy or worldviews are incompatible with our laws. You cannot have a constitution and Sharia law. You must choose one or the other. In America, the purpose of government is to secure these rights. Romans 13 says that governing authorities are appointed by God and receive their authority from the one true God, from Yahweh, from the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, the creator of all things, the great I am. Today, I call on you, whom God has given authority in our county, state, or nation, to stand against the development of communities that would seek to establish a different law in our land. I call you to protect our liberties, to be strong and courageous, for God has appointed you to this role for such a time as this. Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Do we have the engineer
That's
video?
that,
The engineer?
Yeah.
Oh, I wanted to talk to him talking about the development, why they're doing development. So let's not worry about that video.
first of all, thank God for Calvary Chapel.
I know.
Yes.
Yeah. That's right.
He's a Calvary Chapel pastor.
Yeah.
And I mean, whatever denominational differences that we have, I just want to say that Calvary Chapel pastors have been some of the most courageous, some of the most faithful,
Outspoken.
some of the most
up.
outspoken
That's
in
right.
the last 5-6 years.
Yeah.
And here's another one. I mean,
Yeah.
it was, through COVID, it was many Calvary
Our
Chapel
boy
churches.
Pastor Rob down in
Yeah, I mean, it was
down in
Calvary
California.
Chapel churches that said, we're going to stay open and you can find us. You know, we're going to stay open. And we knew, I've heard stories of people, particularly in California, where, you know, like these like Reformed Christians, Reformed Presbyterian Christians whose churches were not open.
Yeah.
Churches were closed. And so in desperation are looking for churches that are open, go to a Calvary Chapel church and then find each other in Calvary Chapel churches. They're like, you know, where, you know, do you usually go here? No, I don't usually go here. Where do you usually? Well, I'm actually a Presbyterian. I'm Presbyterian too. And they're like, these refugees. And so thank God for Calvary Chapel.
Yeah, that's right.
And then thank God for this pastor. I mean,
Yes.
the
Romans 13.
I mean, he was gracious and firm and challenging and stated the truth boldly and clearly. And we need thousands more pastors like that man.
And I love how, as part of that, he so clearly identified the God he serves.
Yes.
There's no way to, because, you know, that's
Father,
the
Son, and
play,
Holy
right?
Spirit, yeah.
Oh, well, we all worship God. No. I'm talking Yahweh.
Yes.
Father, Son, and Holy Spirit.
Yes.
It's like, that's right, brother.
Amen. Amen. No, I mean, and that's the thing is like, I mean, I got to believe, so we've talked about it on the show a lot, that I believe God gave us COVID because he wanted his faithful to actually learn the proper role of government. Like, I mean, suddenly, like, you know, like nobody, like a whole bunch of people didn't even know who their representatives were, didn't know they had health districts, didn't know the name of their mayor or the city council. And suddenly in the middle of COVID, it mattered. And we're like, wait, who's making all these decisions? Is ruining my life? Who's making these decisions, closing down my business or closing my church or closing my school or telling me that I have to stand 6 feet apart or put this thing on my face, all this kind of stuff. And suddenly Christians are like, wait a second. I mean, what's the right answer? And we have these treasure troves, like Protestant resistance theory is a thing. Like America was founded on Protestant resistance theory. Like that got worked out in John Calvin's Geneva, got worked out among the Huguenots in France, got worked out in Scotland and among the British Puritans.
And it got worked out with guns here in America.
And then it came here, and basically, I mean, it really is the Declaration of Independence and the War for Independence are, I would argue, as far as I can tell, like sort of the high point thus far in history of Protestant resistance theory based on Protestant doctrine of civil magistrates, covenanter theology, and the right of the people and lesser magistrates to rebel.
That Presbyterian revolt.
Exactly,
Yes,
which is what the King George called it. And but so I think COVID was given to us by God to wake us up and remind us of our roots. And the thing that I want to just get to though is and I believe in faith. I mean, we've seen how Islam has overrun Western Europe,
Dearborn, Michigan,
and England. Hold on, I'm getting there.
Mhm. Don't get me started.
But but I don't think it's over yet in America.
No,
I think in places in Western Europe and England, it sure looks like
They look over.
close
Yeah.
to over. I mean, God is sovereign,
Yeah.
and He can save with many or few. We
Yeah.
know that and believe that. But nevertheless, in terms of human power and ability,
Yeah.
it looks
Like the Islamists
it looks
are taking
forgotten.
over.
Yes.
Yeah.
However, what I am praying for and believing is that God is now raising up a Dearborn here and there,
Yeah.
and this epic city in Texas, in order to get our attention, so
That's
that
right.
every pastor in America starts saying what he just
That's
said.
right.
And the thing is, and the glory of it, again, it's a scourge in one sense, but the glory of it is God sending enemies that we have to learn to fight.
That's right.
And the thing about it is, it's going to require us to do the very thing you just said, Joffrey, which is that you have to stop it with this stupid generic deity stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
If you keep saying God and you don't define that God, like we've been doing for, since Eisenhower, at least, if not
Yes.
before that, I don't care what God, just some God, just this generic American deity, we lose.
Yep.
Islam wins.
100%.
But God is coming at us with this, and in Deuteronomy or Joshua, where God says, I'm going to leave some enemies in the land so that the next generation learns how to fight and doesn't forget how to fight. Like God has done that for us in this moment, I think, where He sent COVID, He sent these overweening bureaucrats, Anthony Fauci and all the rest, to teach us and remind us of the rightful role of civil government, the rightful role of church government, family government.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to believe that He's doing the same thing with the scourge of Islam, is to say, which God do you serve? Is it just a generic God?
Yes.
Or is it the triune God? Is it Father, Son, and
That's
Holy
right.
Spirit?
Well, and that's why I wanted to point out was the scourge. I believe the scourge in Texas is God intentionally disciplining Texas.
Yeah.
When a false religion comes into your land, and Texas is, I've said this on the show before, but Texas has got something like 25,000 Christian churches. I mean, it's just a church on every corner.
Right.
It's amazing. And Texas overwhelmingly identifies as a Christian state. I remember I grew, as you guys know, I grew up in Texas, and I remember growing up, and I mean, everyone was a Christian,
right?
Whether they really were or not.
Yeah.
And so, but these kind of communities, apparently, this isn't the only one that's popped up in Texas. Is God is cursing the old guard republicanism,
right?
That is wishy-washy,
Yeah,
neutral.
I mean, when this happens, when this kind of thing happens, when God allows the establishment
of a false
religion,
yes,
this is God, saying, I'm upset at you.
Yes.
I'm mad at you. I'm not happy with you. They are. When God's people act like pagans, He lets paganism destroy them.
That's right.
He says, "You want to be a pagan?
Here you go.
Okay, here you go. I will treat you like pagans."
Yep.
And so, but we know there are faithful.
Mm-hmm.
There are some faithful. There are some younger conservatives that are sick and tired
Doing
of
great stuff in
the
Texas.
corruption
Yep.
and so on. And I do think this is a moment for them to wake up. And maybe this is a Florida story.
Yeah.
I mean,
maybe in 15 years,
I
20
really,
years.
Gabe, I really think you need to be a little more post-mill about Texas.
I know. I just seen it go the wrong way for too long because God has given Texas so much. There's been so much blessing there,
right?
And freedom and all this stuff, and it's just been going wrong direction for so long. But I wanted to bring in, because I think this is an important part of this conversation, our buddies, Josh Abatoy, new founding guys. They're investing and building in a community called Ridge Runner in Texas. Go ahead and play the video.
A little bit different music.
Yeah.
America has always been a frontier nation. The most daring and far-sighted of us have always chased those places where you can find adventure, freedom, room to grow, and prospects for a better future. While many today are disillusioned with the overcrowding in American cities and the consumerism of the big box suburbs, digital technology is opening new frontiers. Millions of Americans are discovering that it's possible to live in America's beautiful heartland and stay connected to the 21st century economy all at the same time. And as social trust fractures, digital transformation opens up a generational opportunity to create new aspirational communities centered around a shared way of life.
So we'll go and
At
stop it
Ridge
right
Runner,
there.
we are gathering.
It goes on, and their goal is it's like a 4-minute video. I encourage you to watch it, but their goal is basically build a Christian patriotic community in Tennessee, in this kind of eastern Tennessee region, called Ridge Runner. I think you go to ridgerunner.us is what it was. Yeah. But part of it, part of what I was thinking here is like, I, as a Christian patriotic American, I would say absolutely with a good conscience, no to Epic City and Muslim building this thing. And you can, and I would say everything about amen to Ridge Runner development. And the only way you can do that and remain consistent is you have to be a Christian American. You can't be a non-Christian American or a secularist American or a, we welcome all faiths, DEI American. And that group to say, yes, you can build an Epic City here, and yes, you can build a Ridge Runner here. And as a Christian American, that order is important. As a Christian American, we can say no to Epic City because America was founded as a Christian nation, and we can say yes to everything about Ridge Runner. And I think for us, we need to clean up a lot of our thinking about this and our church's thinking, and train our kids in this way, that we need to be thinking very clearly as Christians, because more of this stuff's going to pop up.
Right.
We already know Dearborn, Michigan. Everyone hears that as a case study, which is implementing Sharia law. The guy, if you remember this, there was a Christian guy there who stood on the street, preached the gospel in Dearborn, and got arrested.
Okay.
Because apparently he didn't have free speech in the Islamic community. Got arrested. He sued the city at the state level or whatever, and under the 1983 Act, which is the same act I used, the same law I used to sue my city for violating my First Amendment rights.
Okay.
He won, and he won $300,000, which is the highest money given out under 1983 claim. And my lawyers based our claim off what happened in Dearborn, Michigan.
Yeah.
And just as a side note, but more of these communities but what the Muslims did in Dearborn, they arrested him because he's speaking against their God.
Right.
And there basically Sharia law is allowed in Dearborn, but he took it to the state and was able to win on that level.
And that boldness comes into play here. And I love what I see from Ridge Runner, including there's been no Christian rhetoric in what we've seen so far, but they do talk about Christian things. I love what I see, but there's also, there are a lot of different things that Christians should be doing. And this is just one of the many things. And this is not the ideal that, I might design. So Andrew Isker was on the Tucker Carlson show talking about this project recently. I watched the whole thing, enjoyed the whole thing. It was great. He was very eloquent. But he did mention at one point, so he's building a church. He's been invited to build a church in the center of all these lots that are going to turn into a community. It's going to be happening relatively organically. But he said at a certain point that they're not really allowed to say that only Christians can live here because of fair housing laws. But then my question would be, why not? Is that just? Aren't there some fights that could be had out right here? If these guys in Texas are allowed to say that Islam is at the forefront, and I realize that's not the same thing as saying only Muslims can live here.
Right.
Islam is at the forefront. So let's get up there and say Christianity right, exactly. That's right. And faithful Christians are going to come here, and you will have to live as a faithful Christian under God's law if you come here.
Right. So here's my guess about not doing research into this. I bet Epic City is probably arguing the same way. We can't say this is a purely Muslim community.
Right.
But when you put a mosque in the middle, everyone knows this is a Muslim community.
Yes.
What's crazy is in Christian America in Tennessee, you put a church in the middle and everyone's like, eh.
Right. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And it's also interesting to note that this isn't really a city, right? So, them building a city as its own entity is fascinating. And we are building cities like that around the country, including here in Moscow. Anyway, I could rant for hours, so I'm just gonna rant for 2 minutes.
But the point is I mean, I think Christians need to be intentional about building Christian cities.
Right. Yes,
we're doing it in Moscow. We got our friends at Battleground. We got other intentionally Christian developments happening.
Well, most cities in America,
right,
were Christian cities.
Right.
I mean, you go to almost every city in America.
Yeah, that's right.
That was founded, I don't know,
Massachusetts
before 50 years ago.
Yeah.
And what is in the center of every single town?
That's right, Toby.
Right.
A church.
Yeah.
And it was just organic, and it was like, we're going to live here, and we're Christians.
Right.
And were there non-Christians that showed up? Yes. But for a long time, Christianity just assumed the center.
Yes.
We are Christians. It's written into our state constitutions.
Mm-hmm.
It's written into a lot of city and county documents.
Mm-hmm.
This is just who we are. And so I think, there's also that play, which is what we're doing here, which is there's churches all around here, downtown Moscow, and a bunch of them don't worship Jesus anymore,
right,
or barely. And we're in the process of saying, no, actually, this town was founded by Christians.
Mm-hmm.
We know that because the original buildings are churches.
Yeah, right.
I mean, the Methodist church here and the Presbyterian church here,
Mm-hmm.
the old church on 6th Street. I mean, there's all
here
these
in Moscow.
In
You're just talking Moscow, not Boston, Massachusetts.
And Moscow was founded way after that. But if you go up and down the East Coast, every city you're in, we know the city was founded as a Christian nation or as a Christian city, because they built the church, right when it was founded, and that was at the center
and
of the city.
Was built around it.
Everything was built around the center.
Okay, so I want to take these last couple minutes. I want to go through Trump's tariffs because this is a big deal. Happened today, April 2nd.
Okay.
We talked about this with Bonson on the show last Tuesday.
And we talked to Rod Martin.
And Rod about this. So here's Trump. So the Trump had been saying April 2nd's a big day. I'm going to have tariffs come into effect April 2nd.
Yep.
And here's Trump talking about that.
So if you look at that, China, first row, China, 67%. That's tariffs charged to the USA, including currency manipulation and trade barriers. So 67%, I think you can, for the most part, see it. Those with good eyes, with bad eyes. We didn't want to it's very windy out here. We didn't want to bring out the big charts because it had no chance of standing. Fortunately, we came armed with a little smaller chart. So 67%, so we're going to be charging a discounted reciprocal tariff of 34%. I think, in other words, they charge us, we charge them less. So how can anybody be upset? They will be, because we never charge anybody anything. But now we're going to charge.
So that's him starting to talk about the tariffs. Right. Here's the chart he was talking about. So bring up the chart he was talking about so you can kind of see the details there.
So European Union, 39%. We're going to slap a 20%.
Yeah.
Vietnam does a 90% tariff.
That's crazy.
And we're going to do a 46% against them.
Yep. Taiwan, Japan.
64 versus 32. Japan, those are the high ones. India. Yep. South Korea, all of those are almost over 50%.
Now you'll see Israel on there, but Israel today announced that they're eliminating all tariffs against the U.S.
Right, which I think is Trump's play in all this.
Yeah. Yes.
I think everybody's the idea, and that's what Rod Martin mentioned to us. He said, I think the goal is no tariffs.
Yeah,
but basically, we're going to play chicken with them a little bit, and Israel has already said, okay. No
we're
tariffs.
done.
We're dropping our tariffs, and I assume we're going to respond by dropping tariffs against Israel.
Yeah. All the criticisms are economical, but this is not an economical play.
Yeah,
this is a geopolitical play. Who's going to play ball with us?
Yeah, and free up.
So they are, and so Bonson on the show, he acknowledges that. He acknowledged there's a political play here. There's a political calculus, and at the same time, sort of in terms of raw economics. He used this analogy that I'm just going to keep using from now on, just because it's colorful and helpful.
It's helpful.
But it's like, so a foreign country is like, we're going to beat our people.
Yep.
And it's like America saying, fine, we're going to beat our people.
Yep.
And he says that's the math. The math is, because that's a tariff is a tax, and they're taxing their people on U.S. goods, and we're going to tax our people on whatever, Japanese, South Korean, Chinese goods.
Yep.
He says, so on the face of it, it's kind of dumb. Doesn't really make sense. However, he acknowledged, I know there's a political play here. Rod Martin also sort of pressed this into the corners in a really helpful way. Again, if you missed the shows last week, David Bonson and Rod Martin were both on the show last week talking about tariffs, both really helpful shows. But Rod Martin pointed out, the fact of the matter is though that they need us way more than we need them. That's just a fact that's got to play into this. And since they need us way more, like and particularly they need us to buy their stuff. Way more than we need to buy their stuff.
Yeah, that's why China could never win a tariff war with us.
And so that's the chicken they're playing. And that makes sense to me. It's, again, I really don't want to live in this world.
Right.
But I do think if it's a little bit of a siege war of sorts where we're saying, okay, we're going to survive without your stuff for a little while.
I think a siege war is a great image. Like if we move off of the beating people, right? So one country says that we're going to beat. So if we move off of that into, say, food, like resources, food, right? So one nation says we're going to starve our people, and we might say
we're not going to buy any of your stuff or not as much stuff.
Yeah, or just sticking with the image, one beats and the other beats. One starves his people, the other says, well, we're going to go to war. So now austerity, victory gardens.
Yes.
It may be some of the same effects, but a very different reason, and it's supposed to be temporary. I also think that even that is still a very I wouldn't want to live in that world forever either. Still economical. There's a whole other level of this, which is just there will be a sorting here of those countries that are willing to suffer ideologically to maintain a rough relationship with us financially because they want to have a bad relationship with us anyway.
Got it.
So I think that here what we're seeing, this is among other things,
sorting hat.
We'll sort, but not just sorting economically, like ideologically, this is going to be a sorting hat.
Right.
Now, that's
good. That's helpful.
Yeah. There's one other chart I want to bring up. Just go to the other chart, skip Trump's other comments.
This one?
Yeah, this chart, what this is showing you
ranking
is
trade freedom.
Yes, actual
Singapore.
trade freedom.
This chart seems like really good television.
So, this comes from a guy. Now, this comes from the Heritage Foundation.
Yeah.
So, the Heritage is usually pretty good at trying to put some sort of rating system together that's fair and not trying to be unbalanced and everything. So, the Heritage came out with kind of this, the lack of trade barriers,
free trade ranking
based on probably a calculation of a number of things, not just, whatever your tariffs are.
It says at the bottom, trade freedom scores are based on a country's trade weighted average tariff rate and an index of non-tariff barrier policies.
So non-tariff.
I'm just reading the fine print. I don't know what that means.
Might be like a fine, or might be like they wouldn't call it a tariff, but they would call it like, your ship needs to dock here, $5,000, something like that.
So United States is ranked 69th.
Yes, in that.
Yeah, on trade freedom index.
So David Bonson retweeted this, and I thought it was just some good context to maybe bring in to kind of look at America. I would love to, kind of get into some details on all that, but this is from the Heritage Foundation.
Is that including today's tariffs?
No.
So let's just be prior to that.
Yeah.
So we probably dropped in rank as of today.
You're probably right.
Because if we just cranked up a bunch of tariffs to go to war, just sort of do this tariff siege. I'm gonna start using that now. Tariff siege.
Nice.
We're in a tariff siege. We probably dropped ranking, but again, if the goal is a sorting. And it may all even out in the wash if a bunch of other countries imitate Israel, drop their tariffs, and we drop the tariffs against them, and then it's just sort of like selectively, like, in general, we're discouraging trade with whatever, North Korea or whichever one, whatever, because they hate us,
right?
And they're against us no matter what. Like, let's do our best not to do business there, or at least do less business there. It's going to cost more, but that's not going to be the case of all countries across the board.
Well, I'd also wonder, how many of these nations have access to coastal lands?
A lot of them do.
It looks like a lot of them do.
I do think that there is some reason to, have this craft be think of it as a little suspect without really knowing how to read it well. I will point out that there are a ton of nations on here that operate primarily as intermediaries or traders, right?
Yes.
And then there are all these European countries. A bunch of them are in the EU. How does that get credited?
Right.
Because you could be Germany and have really low tariffs, but you don't worry about that because you control the
'Cause
EU. The
EU
EU has its
right.
own
Does
tariffs.
all the tariffs.
I don't know how it
Yeah.
accounts for all that.
That's a
That's a
really
great
good question.
And you got countries like Iceland. Well, who's really delivering their stuff up there?
Right.
It's like, of course they got low. Their big barrier is location,
Yes.
and that's definitely not counted.
So
in
they
this,
need to have low trade barriers.
Yeah, because their big barrier is this.
Well, we need way more freedom in the United States. We should be higher, but a lot of those countries, I think, are.
You wonder how that works.
Toby, let's talk about the hats and let's close it out, man.
All right. Yeah. So y'all, we function largely. One of the ways that we run here is through our pub membership. Fight Laugh Feast pub is our Fight Laugh Feast club. We call it the pub because it's a family, it's a community, and so we are very grateful for everybody that supports us already, everybody that's already a pub member. But to encourage you all in this Easter season, we're doing a couple of hat giveaways. We're going to do a couple drawings. So everybody that joins the Fight Laugh Feast pub between now and right after Easter, I think you said the Tuesday after Easter. Is that right? Are you listening? You're not even listening.
Yeah. No, I wasn't.
You're just completely.
Yeah, we said the
out.
Tuesday after Easter, so Easter week.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Yeah. Super. Glad we're doing this show together, Gabe.
The camera was focused on you. I could do whatever I want.
So between now, it was whenever we started this.
A week ago or two.
We should make sure we know what date that was when you started this. But you guys, producers got to find when
we'll find it. I think
when I
it's
first
March,
brought out the hats.
March 22nd.
Anyways, between then and Easter Tuesday. Everybody that joins right now, between now and then, you're entered into a drawing. And we're going to draw for this hat. This is the F-47 hat. This is in honor of Trump ending the Department of Education. I don't know, or at least, starting to dismantle that stuff. And so a friend of ours donated this to the show, so we're going to give it away to one of you who join this month leading up to Easter. And then everybody that's already a member and those of you that join are also all part of two drawings, which we're going to give away this Maca hat and this sweet NSA old school wool ball cap. You got one of these yet?
Not yet.
Okay.
March 20th.
So everybody that's joined,
remind us, mark that somewhere.
March 20th to the Tuesday after Easter, whatever day that is.
I was excited to do that old school hat come out.
Yeah, I know. It's really sweet. So anyways, we're going to do a hat giveaway this Easter tide. In gratitude for all of you who have been members with us for a long time and those of you currently joining. Again, remember, you get access to a bunch of stuff behind the paywall. There's a number of things that we've done over the years, old conferences. There's old series that we've done.
Wisdom for Kings, Pastor Toby.
I've got a series on Proverbs, and there's a bunch of other content back there. But also you get discounts to the conference. And when you register, which of course is October
16th to 18th.
16th to 18th. Yeah. So you go to fightlaughfeast.com.
And booth stuff, all the stuff's coming out next month.
Well,
so.
We're slowly bringing it all out. But the theme this year is school wars and rebuilding Christendom with our kids, discipleship and education.
Or how public education destroyed America.
Oh, okay.
That's another one I'm toying with in the background.
Oh, okay. So we're just we're gonna practice like different subtitles on the show live, and then Joffrey will tell us the right one.
Perfect.
Because he's the poet. So thanks for joining us today, Joffrey.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
you.
A lot of fun.
Join the pub. Entered into the drawings. Get a hat. Woo.
If you're single, get married. If you're married, have kids. If you have kids, go baptize them until tomorrow. Love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Love your neighbor as yourself. Go fight, laugh, and feast. How can I say it as fast as that Texas chair guy?
I was just going to say, you sound like that guy. Passed.
This is Cross Politics.
America is a country that was founded for the purpose of allowing Christians to do their duty before God and not to have their consciences ruled by the doctrines and commandments of men. Reese Fund exists in order to see the 10 Commandments properly applied, not just as a plaque on the wall, but to actually be used in business as though they're commandments from God that we're supposed to obey. Our goal is to find businesses and to buy them and to build them up. We want to find manufacturing businesses and use them to make sure that we can maintain our capacity to do things here. Reese Fund, Christian capital, boldly deployed.